Good morning. Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? I will apologize in advance if my voice sounds deeper than usual. Did a lot of talking over the last 48 hours and it's kind of come home to roost. But good morning, everyone. Gary Muirhead has the luxury of watching at home today because he's got a hospital appointment later. Gary, I don't know what your hospital appointment's about, but good luck with that. Keep us posted. Jim Turner, morning peeps, morning Jim. Mick Norton, good morning from a cloudy Wakefield here in the M62 corridor. It's just a little bit cooler here today than it was yesterday. But I tell you what, well, I'll show you in just a moment. The weather in Prague and Dobrich. I've been saying Dobrich for years. Dobrich, apparently. That's the way you do it. Over in the Czech Republic, absolutely glorious. You probably can't tell, but there's a bit of a tan going on my arms. Nowhere else because I was all covered up. But yeah, well, listen, I've got to say a couple of things about Bobcat. Always look forward to catching up with the guys at Bobcat. They're endlessly helpful, endlessly kind and generous and hospitable. But boy, oh boy, could some other manufacturers learn from their way of doing things. So we arrived in Dobrich, and they've got a couple of demonstration areas, and they had gathered together about 100 machines. It was just over 100 machines, and Lord alone knows how many attachments. We were invited to have a look around the Innovation Centre, which I'll talk about in a moment. We were invited to go round to the main headquarters just to get a welcome, fire instructions and stuff like that. But the rest of the time it was, well, we can take you to see the forestry, but you don't have to come. We can take you around the factory, but you don't have to come. Alternatively, there's everything we make. Go have some fun. So I went and had some fun. You'll see that in just a moment, but just absolutely top notch, really was. And we were very, very lucky. There's a guy who works for Bobcat. He's, I think he's a head of PR or head of marketing or whatever. A guy called Lucas Jungbauer. Really nice fellow. I've known him for a few years. Really, really one of those. Nothing's too much of a problem, whatever we ask, he always comes through. So we finished up with what they called the grill and chill. So we'd done a whole day, 8 hours out in the sunshine playing with machines, and at the end of it they had like a barbecue, a really top-notch barbecue outdoors. Well, that was going to go on till 8, but about 7:15 Lucas said, right, come on you press people, jump on the bus, let's go back to the hotel, get you washed and changed. I'll take you around and I'll show you Prague. And listen, I mean, I've been to Prague a couple of times and never ceases to amaze me. But he showed me bits of Prague that I've never seen before. Listen, they know how to host an event. On the subject of the hat, which you've probably spotted, this is a brand new Bobcat hat. I have one to give away next week. I've also got a brand new JCB hat to give away next week. I've got a Bobcat model to give away next week, all of which will be coming. Didn't have time to prep for it today because I got back and, oh boy. But by the time I am back, and I'll come on to that in just a moment, as I say, I was up at JCB over a week ago. Got some goodies from there. I've got some goodies from Bobcat. I'm off to Volvo on Monday and Tuesday next week. So there's no show Monday or Tuesday. So hopefully, I'm not being presumptuous here, but hopefully Volvo will be sending me back to the UK with some Volvo goodies. If not, I shall pop into their merch shop and make sure I bring some of my own, and I'll be giving those away next week as well. A bit of a mixed bag next week, bit like today. I missed a couple of days this week, missing a couple of days next week, but hopefully I'll make it worth your while when we come back. And on the subject of Bobcat, I'm going to show you a tiny snippet, about a minute of what we got up to at Bobcat. But I've done things differently this time. Having been reunited with my camera, I've decided I'm going to make a movie. Okay, that's getting a little above my station. I'm going to make a single long film. It might be 15 minutes, it might be 20 minutes, it could be half an hour. And I'm going to take you literally from our arrival at the hotel, up the following morning, onto the coach from Prague to Dobrich, round the factory, round the Innovation Centre, playing on the machines. Literally everything that I did, I will be bringing to you at some point in the future. I'm going to try and start editing this weekend, but we shall see how that pans out. And speaking of next week, I'm really struggling for time. I interviewed Jamie Tarvui about it must be 5 weeks ago now, and I've still not edited his video. My inclination now is, because the video that we did with Chris Monks, which I know a lot of you guys watched while I was away this week, I may well do that with Jamie. Rather than trying to just pick out snippets, I'll just bring you the whole thing, because he has a lot to say, and what he says is very, very interesting. And so I may well do that. So either Monday or Tuesday next week, I won't be here, but the show will go on, as they say. Later in the show, in fact, for our morning monologue, I want to talk about the subject of collaboration. That's what the morning monologue is all about. I want to ask a question. There's a lot of collaborations going on between brands. I've already told you about Volvo and Hitachi Energy getting their heads together about electrification and stuff. There's more. That's not the only one. There's more than that. And I was thinking about collaboration. If you could, you guys follow all of this sort of stuff. If you were to design a collaboration between major brands, who would you have collaborate? And the one that immediately sprang to mind for me was Kobelco. Kobelco obviously makes some very, very good excavators, but they don't have a wheel loader line. And yet Waycor, or Atlas Weyhausen as they used to be, make a line of wheel loaders, but they kind of lurk in the background a little bit. I reckon I'm proposing here, and if it ever comes off and makes millions, please, Kobelco and Waycor, send some my way. I am proposing a collaboration between Kobelco and Waycor. Anybody else got any thoughts on that? I'd love to hear from you. Let's have a look. Let me go back through. I know there's lots of chat here. Mark Whiting is here as well. And just very quickly, Gary is going for an endoscopy. Not as bad as it sounds. Not as bad as it sounds. Not a bundle of laughs, but not as bad as it sounds. But good luck with that. And there's Jim saying best of luck as well. John the Ball is here as well. Stefan Edwards is here. I'm going to guess back in the Netherlands now, but you never know. He's a nomad. He's all over the place. Ken Hatter is here. Yeah, I think you've probably summed up the weather here as well. Sunshine and some other stuff. The Bobcat logo looks really amazing. They do have some fantastic branded products. They do. This is not. I'm fairly sure I filmed it, but I will show it to you when I do the film. We stopped for lunch. We arrived at the factory, and they've got a huge marquee, holds hundreds of people. Really, really not just buffet food, but really, really good food. And it was open all day. You could graze as you were going. Drinks and ice lollies and all of that kind of stuff, but they also had some desserts, and they had some macarons, some of which said Bobcat on top, and some had that logo on top. And I'm fairly sure I filmed one of them. They literally thought of everything, and I'll show you all of that at some point. Dan the Man is here as well. Chris Ford is here. Morning, Skins. Yes, morning, Chris. Love Prague. Stopped in at a place with the best European breakfast I've ever had. Meats, cheeses, salad, gorgeous bread. Yeah. We went out for despite the fact that we've been to a barbecue. When Lucas Jungbauer took us down to the Old Town in Prague, we stopped in a bar restaurant, I guess. I was on the beer, which also explains my voice a bit. I think I probably got a bit louder than I normally do. But they brought up some stuff. And there was a bit of pate, some bread, and some pickled cheese. Oh, man, I could have eaten my body weight in the stuff. Absolutely fantastic. Chris Ford saying 15 minutes plus of digger porn, hopefully. It will be. It will be. And some of the other bits. A bit of a look behind the scenes as well. Is Bobcat going down the road of electric or hydrogen? Well, funnily enough, before I actually went into Debris, I sat down. You know how I like those little notelets that they leave in your hotel room. Well, I did the same again. And one of these was where does Bobcat sit on future fuels? I said. Now, because the event that we were at was, I wouldn't say it was predominantly for dealers, but the press made up a very, very small part of it. That we were outnumbered by dealers and specialists and stuff like that. So there wasn't much in the way of speakers. But they basically said, well, we've got hydrogen over here in the forklifts, and we've got electric over here in the construction equipment, and we're doing our thing, and they're doing their thing. Maybe they'll cross paths at some point. So no, I didn't get a definitive answer on that. But they've got new electric machines, including a brand new electric mini excavator that they previewed. It's not even available yet. We got to see that. And part of the fact that it was a preview machine, everything you could see was Bobcat white. But that one was black, and it looked very, very smart indeed. Dan, that would be a great collaboration. If anyone's got any more, love to hear about that. Mercy is here. Good morning as well. Cheers, Jim. Endoscopy, always in the shit, just the depth that varies. Well, yes, quite. You get any things? You get any things there? Darn, I forgot to text you about getting some things. Either my memory is going or they've rearranged things. So when you go into the tent or the marquee, they've got a display of hats, and I'm pleased to say I've probably already owned about half of them, but I've got a new one. But that's a whole other story. Aside from this one, anywho, at the end of the day, they said if you want to go up to the merch shop, you can go and have a look. Well, I remember going to the merch shop in Debris 2-3 years ago. I'm spoilt for choice. This time, maybe because they've expanded the facility itself, they've hemmed everything in. Very, very huge collection of stuff, but in a very small space, and it was packed. So I didn't get to go in. Thankfully, Fred did when it was a bit quieter, and he got me my new hat. Brown corduroy, I'll have you know. More of a winter hat, but you'll be seeing it at some point. Gary saying, is Prague is as cheap or is it getting more expensive? It's a little bit more expensive, but it's still way cheaper than here. Way cheaper than here. And as the quality of the accommodation, fantastic. The quality of the food, fantastic. The quality of the beer, not that I'm an expert, but quality of the beer was fantastic. It really is. Prague is, I in some ways, I'd kind of put it on a par with Rome. If you get the chance to go to Prague and just wander up by the castle or up through the castle, even, the views from up top, looking out over the landscape is incredible. The castle itself is amazing. There's a cathedral there. Listen, I don't do architecture, I don't do religious visits, but it will blow your mind. It's unbelievable. Chris said if you could actually buy hydrogen fuel, they'd be talking around £6 a litre at the moment. Yeah. But, we know with scale comes reducing in costs. Visited SDLG Europe this week. Interested to see their range of machines, both internal combustion engine and EV. Interested to hear about that. Mike Construction Equipment brand, hang on a minute. Mike Construction Equipment brand collaboration bring with it disputes over intellectual property. I would imagine they are approaching these things with enormous caution. But as you'll hear in the morning monologue, I do think, despite the fact that the world seemingly is in conflict, we live in a very divided and divisive world. This collaborative spirit that we're enjoying in the construction equipment market, I think it's at least partly driven by technology. I think we've got some very, very good metal bashers in the industry. We're very good at making plant, big engines, big undercarriages, big machines. But I think if you want to go beyond that and start to, embrace and adopt technology and alternative fuels, then maybe the shortcut to that is by joining forces with complete specialists, or possibly even joining forces with effectively rivals. The Volvo and Hitachi one that I told you about is a slightly weird one. When you think of Volvo and Hitachi, you would think, oh, excavators, they're deadly rivals. This is Hitachi Energy, and when you know the size of the Hitachi company, you'll know it's Hitachi Energy is as close to Hitachi excavators or Landcross as Volvo construction equipment is to Volvo cars. They are very disparate parts of the business. So that I'll tell you more about it when we get there. What size and type of equipment does the factory produce? It produces lots and lots of stuff. But what I did find very interesting, hang on a minute, my Twitch stream is just, it's back. Okay, yeah, what I did find very, very interesting was the breakdown of their sales. I think most people, when you hear the name Bobcat, you immediately think of skid steer loaders, and maybe you think about track loaders as well. But I think Bobcat is a name synonymous with skid steer loaders. In America, skid steer loaders account for 60-70% of all of their sales. Over here, they are predominantly a mini excavator manufacturer. Roughly 60% of their European sales are, in fact, mini excavators. Yes, they still, they're still market leader by an absolute country mile in terms of skid steers and compact wheel loaders and stuff like that, and very, very successful at it. But they are a mini excavator brand first and foremost here in Europe. Interestingly, if you want to widen the net even further, they make and sell a product specifically for India. There is a Bobcat backhoe loader, but it's only the Indians that want it. Interesting. And attachments like you wouldn't believe. More attachments than you can shake a stick at. JCB and Komatsu would be a good collaboration. Yeah, I wonder where they would meet, because they've got very similar. I mean, I guess it would give JCB a dozer. It's an interesting one. Jim says, no point in collaborating unless you need to use another firm's patent, or a bigger run of parts manufacturing will bring the overall price down. Yeah, I do think it's a case of, even a company of the size of Caterpillar or Komatsu, the absolute giants of this industry, if they suddenly decided we're going to, go and pursue some new nuclear fuel, I'm just plucking this out of my back end, but if they decide to go and pursue that, now they could invest hundreds of millions, and they could take 4, 5, 10 years to bring that to fruition. Or they could just sign a joint venture with another company and do it in maybe half the time. That's going to be the interesting one anyway. JCB and Dresser to get their heads together, produce an amazing dozer range for JCB catalogue. See, there you are. What do we actually think that JCB needs a dozer? There's a bit of me that does. There is a bit of me that does. They seem to have almost everything else. I mean, I know it's not a particularly volume product, but I do feel like there's some sense in that. Do they still have a collaboration with Demolition? Well, that it's not even a collaboration. It's they are one and the same. So Doosan bought Bobcat whenever that was, and so yeah, you walk around the factory and the whole thing is branded Doosan Bobcat. So yes, there is still that cross fertilization. And I've never been, but Doosan do have a facility in Czech Republic as well. Not a million miles away. Never been. Maybe I'll get around to it one of these days. Now, that's an interesting one. JCB do that here. Don't see one with a rear actor. Not sure what that's all about. Can't envisage JCB collaborating with anyone to share the secrets of their hydrogen technology. Funnily enough, I actually can, and I'm going to stretch the word collaboration to license. If JCB, as they are leading us to believe, if they have truly stolen a march on much of the market, and they are a street or many streets ahead in terms of harnessing hydrogen power, you'd have to think, why on earth would you keep that to yourselves? Why would you not license that? Be interested to see how that pans out. Wonder, is that how the India market works and Bobcat stuff? I think, I mean, obviously we mentioned this a little while ago. JCB, the word JCB has been adopted by the Indians to mean dig. And the reason for that is because the JCB backhoe loader for decades has been so hugely popular in India. You know, they are still very, very much a backhoe loader market. And Bobcat are merely exploiting that. And probably the others as well. I don't know if Komatsu sell their backhoe loader over there. We shall see. Lugong have dresser, so I can't see JCB getting with them. It's true. It is true. Bobcat, see it on UK and India market, the skid steer with a rear active. Yeah, no, I mean, Bobcat do actually offer that as one of their many, many attachments. I mean, literally hundreds of attachments. I've got one more thing before we start the show, and it will become clear why I'm asking about it. Does anyone know what Caterpillar are doing with their telescopic handler range? When we get to the morning monologue, I do mention Caterpillar and telescopic handlers, and I wanted to find out more, and I went on to the Caterpillar website last night, and they've got all their product categories listed, but not telehandlers. And I thought, well, maybe they're just maintaining the website, so I went over to the Finning website. Not there either. It might be me. It might be something completely innocuous, but I wanted to do a comparison with the Caterpillar telehandler range and that of another, and I couldn't do it because it wasn't there. Stephen Edwards says SDLG collaborated with Volvo until a year ago. This collaboration has been terminated. Yeah, that was. I mean, it was certainly excavators. I think because I mean I do remember bumping into SDLG at a few exhibitions, and it was literally from a distance. Oh, it's a Volvo. Oh no, it's not. Yeah, you're absolutely right. To be honest, I have not seen many new telehandlers from Cat. I don't know the answer, so I'm not going to cast aspersions, but it almost feels like either there's something big coming, or that it feels to me like they've kind of not necessarily dropped telehandlers, but kind of pushed them into the background. Very, very weird. I do know a firm that JCB need to partner with or use rights to market their stuff, but it will remain under my hat until I'm on the payroll. Yes, I know that company as well. Yes, absolutely right. Should we crack on? I've been fanning around. Just don't forget, no show Monday or Tuesday. With me, I will try and get the Jamie Tavui thing done for you, but in the meantime, there will be no show. I wonder, are they focusing on more plant and telehandlers? The market is flooded with telehandler brands. Well, when we get to the morning monologue, you'll realise why I've asked the question, because a decision has been made, not here in the UK. A decision has been made that seems odd. Mick says Caterpillar are replacing their TL series telehandlers with 4 new next generation models: THO 642, 842, 1055, and 1255. So why aren't they on the website? I mean, I realise websites are merely a shop window, but not to be on the Caterpillar website or the Finning website, and to the point where there's a bit of the Caterpillar website that is set aside for us media types. You have a login details, and I searched through the last year or more of press releases for the word telehandler, could not find a single one. Hold that thought. We'll come to that. Anyway. In my opinion, says Gary, Cat telehandlers were so far out there in looks and operations, they never really took off in this country. But I agree. I agree. But as I say, the website I was looking at first was cat.com. This is the global. So, yeah, they may not have really found their way here, but surely they found their way somewhere else, just not there. I even started to wonder whether they called them something else, but I checked, and no, they do call them telehandlers. Anyway, people, it is that time. We are almost half an hour into the show, and I've done absolutely sod all. So without further ado, let me roll the intro and get this show on the road. Just address this from Mick. He says, looks like Cat are having a strategic refresh, not a quiet wind down. I don't suppose they're winding down either. And as I say, maybe, just maybe, something is happening in the background and the telehandlers will burst back onto the scene and we'll all go, what will we be talking about? We shall see. It is Friday, the 29th of May. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition, the Lord High Chancellor of live streaming, the authentic voice of the global demolition industry. In today's show, Bobcat Demo Days are the best days. FPT Industrial, the power behind some of the industry's biggest brands. Takeuchi toughs it out, and Faresin takes electric machines to new heights. I'm going to show you all of that in just a moment. Let me go over to the chat. Last year, Cat were going to manufacture new generation telehandlers at their Leicester factory. Yeah. But if you go to the website for Desford, the Caterpillar facility up in Leicester, no mention of telehandlers. A cynical person, you know, I'm not one of those, as you know. A cynical person would actually think, there's something afoot here. Not me, obviously, because you know that's not my way. Another 2-hour show today. Well, we shall see. We shall see. Gary Muirhead says, I've been following a story here in Scotland about 60 new build homes being excavated due to mining issues below. Oh, God. Yeah, sinkholes aplenty if you're not careful. Anywho, let's have some action. We're going to start, funnily enough, we've been talking about Caterpillar. We're going to start with a bit of Caterpillar, and then I'm going to take you to the Czech Republic. So, I'm about to take you to the Bobcat Demo Days over in Debris. Contained within this film is something that is as rare as hen's teeth. It's this guy at the controls of a machine. You don't get to see that very often. Sit back and enjoy. This is what the Demo Days is all about. Okay, here's something you don't see very often. I'm actually in a machine. I'm not going anywhere at the moment because there's a big demonstration going on, but I wanted a bit of peace and quiet. Finally got behind the levers. So, couple of things on that. You saw that wheel loader going up on a platform there. It's part of their innovation center is they do a stability test. That thing goes up to 45 degrees in all planes in all directions just to test the stability. Astonishing thing to see. As part of that innovation center, there's a bit just off to one side where they test machines for vibration. They basically put vibration into the machines. The problem with that is if you put the vibration into the machines and the machines are attached to the ground, that vibratory force would transfer itself into the building and basically could rattle the building down over a period, not immediately, but over a period. So they have installed a 300-ton block of concrete that is floating. It's basically suspended. So when a machine is being vibrated, it vibrates. This 300-ton block of concrete vibrates, but nothing around it does. The amount, the thought that's gone into it. Also, which is again will be in the longer film, they've got a room where they test the acoustics and the sound levels coming off the machines, and it is it's a big room, very, very big room, but completely soundproof, and soundproof to the point of eeriness. You open this huge steel door, it's like a bank vault door, and when you close it, sound goes away. And even speaking to each other, it sounds weird. I think some people would be freaked out by it. I quite enjoyed it. I was actually stood there thinking that would be a perfect environment to do a live stream, because it's completely silent other than that. Really, absolutely silent. Fascinating tour, really, really worthwhile. Gary says, it's funny when you mentioned the name Bobcat, you seem automatically think of skid steers. Yeah, not the various other equipment they produce. Well, interestingly, I said they've got a new mini excavator, electric mini excavator that's coming down the pipes. They've also got a new a compact track loader, which is the T650. That will be making its debut at Hillhead. If you're going to Hillhead, you'll be able to see that. We got to see that up close. There's also 2 new wheel loaders. I'm doing this off the top of my head. I think it's the 100 and the 85, both of which we got to see. Got to take them for a spin. We will not be actually seeing them on the market before August. Yes, coming this way. Old mine workings, always a nightmare for new house builds. Wakefield has hundreds of shallow seams, many only 10 to 20 millimeters, 20 meters below ground. Yeah, absolutely. I know that's been one of the things down in Cornwall with the old tin mines and what have you. Was that Fred operating one too? Yes, it was. The pair of us actually went off and did a bit of fannying around in a couple of skid steers. Skid steers are great fun. Would I want to be operating one 8, 9, 10 hours a day? No, I wouldn't. But for 20 minutes, man alive, they're as much fun as you can have with your clothes on. Really are. Looks an amazing facility. It is. It is. Honestly, it's so hard to convey these things without sounding like a sycophant. But you literally arrive and you're greeted like old friends. Welcome back, enjoy, And it's literally a case of, here is our playpen. Go enjoy yourselves. We'll see you at the end of the day. And that's all they do. They just leave you to your own devices. Fantastic. Is it me or is that light bright? Which one? That one? Not sure. I'd love to travel the world testing new machines in manufacturers' places. Yeah, wouldn't be a bad gig, would it? Wouldn't be a bad gig. That's extreme testing. Well done, Bobcat. I wonder how many manufacturers test their equipment to this point. I wonder. Yeah, I wonder. It's hard to know. Again, I think this is part of the openness and the transparency that Bobcat have. There was a couple of literally 1 or 2 areas where we were asked not to film or photograph, but the rest of it was, here's how we test stability, here's how we test noise, here's how we test vibration. Completely open book. Just go and have a poke around. Just unbelievable. Other manufacturers, however, I don't know if it's still the case, but the last time I went to the innovation area at JCB, you hand in your mobile phone before you go in. They're that sensitive about potentially giving away trade secrets and that kind of thing. Very, very secure. And I guess in case you stumble across something you're not supposed to see. But yeah, Bobcat, Not a problem. Here's what's going on. Enjoy yourselves. What do we got here? Dan says, looks unlikely. I'll make it to Hillhead. Might be on this Bell truck for a bit. Well, it's not a bad place to be. He's enjoying the comfort as well. Peter McKenna is here as well. Good morning as well. How are you doing, Peter? I haven't spoken to you for a long time, but glad to have you back in our midst. We were talking earlier about future fuels and stuff. Let's talk about current fuels. Let's talk about diesel engines with FPT Industrial right after this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
So we're going back to Somota right now, and appropriately so, because the company we're talking about is an Italian engine manufacturer. We met up with them on the case stand, but the FPT Industrial engines don't just work with case. They are working in the background with Liebherr, for example, Dici, the mini ADT manufacturers, and a whole host of other people as well. We managed to catch up with them, and this is what they told us.
Hi, I'm Domenico Ceparano, Sales Manager for Construction Equipment at FPT. Today we are at Samoter, a key exhibition for construction equipment. This is a core business for FPT. 1 out of 3 engines delivered for off-road application are for construction equipment. We talk about 50,000 engines per year globally, and many leading OEMs are already FPT customers. At Case booth is showcased our F36 engine. This model is designed for compactness, fuel efficiency, and high power and torque density. It delivers 105 kilowatt and 600 newton meters. These features make this model particularly suitable with a compact construction machine. Of course, this is only one product within our portfolio. FPT is a full-liner engine manufacturer, with engine from 2.8 to 20 liter, covering from 37 to 670 kilowatt. This makes us capable of addressing a wide range of applications, from compact to heavy-duty equipment. Along with this, we are capable to offer either pre-validated products available off the shelf or fully customized solution to meet any customer need. FPT focus is also on how machines operate over time. Our products come with ease of maintenance, extended service intervals, and proven durability and reliability. The industry is going through a significant technological transition. FPT take it with a multi-energy approach. This means that we continue to invest on internal combustion engine, and at the same time, we offer and develop alternative solutions such as natural gas, hybrid, and e-powertrain solutions. At the end of the day, what matters is how machines perform into the site, combining efficiency and productivity. This is where FPT focus is.
Yeah, had a great time with FPT, and engines look the business. Let me go back. I asked Peter how he's doing, and he said, I'm doing well. Driver Well is a hit. Yes, it is. I've been watching with enormous interest. Congratulations, mate. You more than you deserve. Gary Muirhead says, was it Bobcat that had the iPhone adapter for operating a machine remotely, and do they still do it? As far as I know, they still do it. It was interesting. We were talking a lot about innovation while we were in the Innovation Center. And apparently a lot of that kind of stuff, the really out there kind of stuff, like the OLED heads-up display and the, I think it was a Razer control to allow you to operate a machine with your iPhone. All of that is developed out of the States. But what they were saying is that the innovations that happen here are, I think the States are kind of pushing at the CES market. They're thinking, what could happen? Whereas over here, the innovation is, we need to do this so that it can be incorporated into our machines next week or next month. So there is a bit of a difference there as well. There's a big collaboration company, the C&H Group. Yeah, well, I mean, they're very, very disparate parts, and still very, very hard to get your head around. I mean, I don't do press conferences anymore because they don't really suit what I do for a living anymore, and I don't find them particularly good value, particularly when you're at Bauma or Intermat or Samota or ConExpo. So I tend to avoid them. But I know in past years, you'd go to a press conference for one part of the C&H Group, and they tell you one thing, and half an hour you'd be invited to a press conference from another company within C&H, and they tell you the complete opposite, to the point where you sat there looking at your notes thinking, I give up. I don't know. And I haven't got time to ask. Peter says, thank you. Well, you're more than welcome, Peter. Honestly, mate, I credit where it's due. Credit where it's due. You saw a cause, you seized it with both hands, and you've made it fly. So nothing but admiration for all that you've done. Let's talk Takeuchi after this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Takeuchi build them tough. I think we can all agree with that. Just as well, here is Takeuchi in action.
I've been in the industry a little over 20 years. What keeps me around here doing this is, I played sports in college. You build that team camaraderie, and construction's about the best industry that still brings that team camaraderie back. And so, every day, we go to work for each other. I've worked with most of these guys for over 10 years. They really enjoyed the contracting part and wanted to get out of the corporate America. It's a different breed of people, man. These jobs are built by these guys. They're good. So I don't worry about the jobs being built. We'll deliver that. When we think of a successful job, it's not that we didn't have any problems during the job. You see the local people, and they come up and thank our crews and thank our guys. Or, hey, we like this. Hey, I brought my son or my kid or my daughter over here and got to use the park you built. It means a lot. Sometimes you get the opportunity to build something that nobody else has built before, and we got to do that in Powder Springs. We built a Olympic International specified skate park. So it's the first one in the country. I didn't realize there's that many local skaters in our area, but, and then you put a beautiful, Olympic-sized skate park in the city. Oh, they loved it. You get that pride feeling, that respect, and, oh, y'all built that. That's pretty cool. Super proud of that part. We've been using Takeuchi in our fleet at SH Creel Contracting for over 5 years now. We use the TB290s. Mostly for digging in water lines, shallow sewer lines, and small diameter storm drain pipe. And we also use it on our pool division to dig and excavate for pools. We got a TL12R that's great for grading. It goes to all our larger grading sites that don't require a dozer. You got the TL10Vs, the verticals, they were used a lot for lifting and moving materials around jobs. You're gonna get a lot of strength for a small size, and it's gonna do the task of a bigger machine. Our mechanics that like working on them, they get a new piece of red iron, they're pretty happy. They'll take care of that brand new piece of equipment like they do their own vehicle. They take pride in the equipment just like Takeuchi does. It's quality you can trust in. It's not just the machine itself, it's all the way down to the dealerships and everything else and the mechanics. If we had any issues with the machines, our salesmen, their support, they answer the phone every time. And then being able to work on the equipment, the access to it, the way they engineered, checking the oil, getting the oil filters out. It just makes it easier for us to keep our fleet up. Basically, if you need it to perform and you want it in tight quarters, that's what you want to go with. We're pretty tough on the machine. We ask to do a little bit more than what it's usually capable of sometimes. We're going to ask a lot of it's hydraulics, we're going to ask a lot of it's steel. We're going to bump up against something and, the body holds up well and it makes it through it. And it does a good job. It keeps us on schedule, and it keeps our pipe getting in the ground. We can't do our jobs without it.
And yes, Gary, I do love the way Americans say trade names. Takeuchi. Yeah, absolutely. Dan Cullen, what about a Takeuchi and Bobcat collaboration? Listen, I wouldn't dismiss anything, but having seen just the breadth and the success of the Bobcat mini excavator range, I'm not absolutely sure what they could get from Takeuchi. Really not. Gary says, well done, Peter. Well deserved, my friend. With all the hard work you put into it, it's finally paying off for you, pal. Yeah, absolutely. Here to that. What have we got? I think we've got... oh, yeah, we've got one more film to play, which kind of preempts what we're going to be talking about in the morning monologue. So let's do this first. Right. I'd like you to watch this following film for two reasons. First, electric telehandlers. They're a thing, and they're Italian built, so they look sexy as well. But also, the company in question is called Faresin Industries. They play a role in today's morning monologue, which I'll get to after this. So that was Faresin Industries, which we'll come to in just a moment. They do make diesel machines as well. That was their electric range. But what occurred to me with the electric range is if you're using a telehandler and you've got a big, hefty, and they do weigh a ton, if you've got a big, hefty battery in that machine, I would imagine that must really enhance the stability of that machine because it's like an additional center-mounted counterweight or more or less center-mounted. I wonder if anyone's asked that question. We shall see. Gary, I love the Bobcat motto, one tough animal. Yes, one tough animal, and it's plastered around the place. That looks like it could be a JCB collaboration. Hey, who knows? Probably not, though, as you're about to hear. That pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over to my morning monologue. If you can't stick around for that, please stay safe, look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. Hope to see you again very soon. Wednesday, I'm back on Wednesday. No show Monday, no show Tuesday, because I shall be in Sweden. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I'll be back in just a moment with what I consider to be quite an interesting subject, and one that still hasn't fully revealed itself. After this. After this. The phrase single-minded speaks to a very specific kind of steely determination, something laser-focused to the exclusion of all else. Yet, it's a misnomer. As the old adage goes, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. A single-minded entrepreneur, for example, might have a fantastic idea and a singular vision, but in all likelihood, it will require the input of others to bring that dream to fruition. A single-minded athlete might possess all the requisite genetic gifts and talent, but they too rely upon the assistance of coaches, nutritionists, psychologists, physiologists, and managers to hone those God-given talents. A single-minded politician without the backing of his or her party or their constituents is just another person shouting into the void. I first heard the phrase partnership is the new leadership at Volvo, where they were using it to explain how they're collaborating with others to help forge the future of construction equipment. And a good example of that collaborative approach was the world's first fossil-free steel articulated hauler. Yes, the machine had the name Volvo emblazoned along its flank, but it was very much a partnership with Swedish steel manufacturer SSAB. Volvo may have had the single-minded vision to originate the idea, but they required a partnership with SSAB to turn that vision into a reality. And now it seems that the phrase partnership is the new leadership is somewhat belatedly seeping into the rest of the construction equipment industry. And since Volvo coined that phrase, at least to me anyway, let's start with them. Volvo Construction Equipment and electrification specialist Hitachi Energy have just signed a memorandum of understanding to collaborate on developing end-to-end approaches that support the deployment of zero-emission construction sites. That collaboration brings together electric construction equipment with clean power supply, energy management, and system integration capabilities to help address one of the construction industry's most pressing challenges, decarbonisation. Strategic partnerships such as this with Hitachi Energy are key to accelerating the transition to zero-emission construction, says Volvo Construction Equipment President Melker Jernberg. By combining complementary expertise and delivering a complete integrated solution, we're giving the customers the confidence, security, and peace of mind they need to adopt emission-free operations today. And Volvo and Hitachi are not alone in forging this collaborative new future. Epiroc has entered into a strategic partnership with Sany Group to explore opportunities for broader collaboration across selected areas in the mining and infrastructure industries. According to the official statement, the parties aim to enhance the cross-brand product portfolio, including providing attractive combinations of Epiroc's hydraulic breakers, other specialty attachments, as well as ground engaging tools with Sany's excavator and loader portfolio. The enhanced product portfolios will bring customers higher productivity and more integrated solutions for infrastructure applications. Sany innovations in electrification, equipment and smart manufacturing are truly impressive, says Jose Manuel Sanchez, president of Epiroc's Tools and Attachments business area. Epiroc leads mining and infrastructure applications in the field of equipment automation, electrification and digitalization. We look forward to combining our respective technologies and resources to deliver more efficient and sustainable solutions for customers worldwide, creating new value and energy resilience for the industry. 1 second. That's better. So that's 3 collaborative joint ventures in a relatively short space of time. And in each instance, one of the partners hails from Sweden. But this is not a uniquely Swedish thing. In fact, the latest and perhaps the most surprising collaboration is part French and part Italian. French Caterpillar dealer Bergerac Monnoyeur has announced the signing of a strategic partnership with Faresin Industries, an Italian manufacturer renowned for its expertise in the design and production of telehandlers. Through this exclusive agreement, Bergerac expands its offering with a complementary range of solutions for the construction, industrial, and agricultural sectors, while strengthening its ability to support further market developments. Faresin Industries has established itself as a leading player thanks to its industrial know-how, innovation capacity, and commitment to low-impact environmental solutions. The manufacturer notably offers a wide range of telescopic handlers, which we saw earlier, including several all-electric models that address emerging challenges related to emissions and noise reduction. For decades, the construction equipment sector was a notoriously dog-eat-dog world. It was a fiercely territorial arena where brands guarded their intellectual property like ground jewels and actively relished burying the competition. Against that background, this newfound collaborative spirit makes a very, very welcome change. This shift is being driven almost entirely by the relentless demands of technology and decarbonisation. For generations, this industry has been incredibly adept at metal bashing, forging heavy, brutalist machines engineered to withstand the punishing environments of demolition and construction. But the rules of engagement have fundamentally changed. Heavy equipment manufacturers are no longer just building mechanical workhorses. They're being forced to develop complex digital ecosystems. If those companies want to compete in tomorrow's super clean high-tech world, the traditional lone wolf approach is dead. The engineering hurdles of full electrification, software integration, and zero emissions infrastructure are simply too complex to solve in isolation. To survive, the traditional metal bashers will have to walk hand in hand with highly specialized technology partners. And it raises a fascinating question. Are we genuinely entering a new era where cutthroat competition is permanently replaced by collaboration? Or is this just a temporary marriage of convenience forced by the green transition? Now, first and foremost, I've got chronic hay fever at the moment. You do apologise. So I mentioned the fact that the French Caterpillar dealer, Bergerac, has signed this, what do they call it? Memorandum of Understanding with Faresin. So effectively, Bergerac will be selling Faresin telehandlers, which again questions what has happened to the Caterpillar telehandlers. I wanted to do an actual comparison to see where Faresin stopped and Caterpillar starts, or the other way around, because I can't find the Caterpillar telehandlers on the website anymore. I don't know. Have Caterpillar taken such a big step back from telehandlers that Bergerac has been forced to go out and find an alternative with Faresin? I don't know the answer to that. The other point with this, I mentioned this at the top of the show, we are sadly living in a very divided and divisive world at the moment. Conflict is everywhere. And yet here in the construction equipment industry, it does feel like companies are quite willing to come together, put their arms around each other's shoulders, and possibly forge a better solution together. And one of the things that struck me about this is, you know how nations tend to unite at times of conflict. You know, I think there was the last time around was probably COVID. When COVID hit, I think, you know, the world was trying to develop a solution together by and large. And yes, you can question the role and stuff of the pharmaceutical companies. But it was like the world came together to see off this existential threat. I think in times of proper world wars, 1, 2, global conflicts, I think tend to bring nations together. But by and large at the moment, we're not like that. Here in this industry, I do think we have and are coming together to see off our own existential threat. And that existential threat is a double header. I think it's technology in one instance, and on the other, it's future fuels. I think in this industry we've kind of taken engines, internal combustion engines, pretty much as far as they can go. They're cleaner than anything we've seen at any point in human history, but that's not quite clean enough. So we are seeing this move to electrification. We are seeing this move to hydrogen as well. And to do that, maybe it will require companies to get their heads together. Former rivals literally sitting across the table from each other and saying, okay, well, to save our companies, and most importantly, to save the world, we need to have a bit of a coming together here. As somebody that sits on the periphery of this industry and merely reports upon it, I have to say the embracing of technology, and even more so this pursuit of electrification and hydrogen, it makes it endlessly fascinating. Which way are we going to go? Who's going to, is hydrogen going to take over? Is electrification going to take over? What's the next big thing? It's constantly shifting. I'd like to think that the manufacturers, either individually or together, will come up with a solution or many solutions to help make construction and demolition sites cleaner than they've ever been, and doing their part. But more than that, if as a result of this drive for technology and future fuels, this industry just becomes more cohesive, collaborative, friendly, that wouldn't be a bad thing either, would it? I mean, I've been writing about this stuff for as long as I can remember. And, you do hear, back in the day, you used to hear horror stories of, rival manufacturers trying to stitch each other up and, backstabbing each other and poaching of staff and stealing of ideas and that kind of thing. All feels a bit like the old Cold War days. America and Russia, never the twain shall meet, and that kind of thing. And while the Americans and the Russians have a slightly different relationship now, I don't think, politically, I don't think we've moved that far. Ukraine doesn't particularly like the Russians don't particularly like Ukraine. Same thing in Gaza. Two sides don't like each other and are willing to fight it to the death. And yet here, we have this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to set aside all of that and to work for a greater good. And I have to say, I'm all about it. I think it's a fantastic thing. If we look back at this in 10 years' time and say, yes, getting to ground zero with hydrogen, getting to, full adoption of electrification was hard. It was expensive. It was a brutal fight. But look at the industry now. Everybody pulling in the same direction. I don't think that would be a bad thing at all. Dan says that would be an interesting one, to be honest. Hear nothing on the grapevine about cat telehandlers either. Yeah. Now listen, there's a very real danger when you do what I do for a living of putting 2 and 2 together and making 15. And the fact that Bergerac has signed this agreement with Faresin might literally be a case of they want some electric telehandlers, which Caterpillar don't yet offer, and therefore that it makes sense for them in the French market. It might be as simple as that. But as I say, when I went to the Caterpillar website, I went to the Finning website to find out the specifications of the Cat telehandlers, and they're not even listed. Yeah, I mean, my journalistic spider senses have been tingling ever since I found that. It's a weird one. Perhaps Caterpillar are thinking that the market is saturated in different brands and manufacturers and telehandler market, that they're taking a step back. They may well have done. And, I don't suppose it's one of those things that you would want to necessarily brag about. As I say, I'm not saying this is absolutely the truth, but if Caterpillar were to quit the telehandler market, they probably wouldn't issue a press release. Good news today from Caterpillar headquarters. We've bailed out of telehandler. I can't imagine them ever doing that. Maybe they've quietly taken a step back. Maybe, as Mick suggested earlier, maybe there are some new generation machines coming down the line, in which case, maybe the website is, or that part of the website is down while they update. It might be as simple as that. And there is I don't know if the Caterpillar system works like this, but I know, having worked with other equipment brands in the past, the way that their dealer websites work is that they are basically extensions of the main website. So it's possible that the Caterpillar website lists all the products, and then Finning in the UK, Bergerac in France, Zeppelin over in Germany, they just basically suck in that information, and that appears on their website. So if Caterpillar have taken their telehandler bit offline just to update it, maybe Bergerac, Finning, Zeppelin, maybe theirs has gone too. It could all be literally as innocent as that. But why then Bergerac signing this agreement with Faresin? It's a weird one. It's a weird one. If you have a stock of old style machines, do you launch a new range? Well, I know that, having worked with Caterpillar for blimey, best part of 20 years. And it's not just Caterpillar. I mean, I think all of the major manufacturers and dealers have that constant balancing act. They want to launch a new machine, but you've got a dealer in one part of the world, or several dealers in some parts of the world, that have ordered the old style machines, and they're sat in stock. And the dealers, don't you dare fucking release those yet, because nobody will want to buy these. If there's a Mark III and we're sat here with Mark IIs on our shelves, nobody's going to want them. So there is a bit of that. So maybe, and I'm guessing again, maybe all of this is Caterpillar have new telehandlers coming down the line. They're letting the dealers at local level deplete their stocks, at which point they say, ta-da, here we are, the new Caterpillar next generation telescopic handlers. Don't know all that Faresin nonsense was about with the French and the Italians. Don't care. Here it is, and we're going to take over the world. It might be as simple as that. But it's weird. It's weird. I mean, I don't know when, because I don't look, I don't know when the telescopic handlers fell off the Caterpillar and Finning website. But if it's happened at the same time that the French cat dealer has signed a joint venture with the Italian manufacturer, it makes me do this. That's my quizzical journalistic face, just so you know. You would think if that's the case, then Cat would just would say, watch this space for something new coming down the line. But they say nothing. You've got to wonder. Yeah, and again, we're kind of out of a cycle as well, aren't we? Caterpillar, along with a lot of other manufacturers, tend to save their big announcements for the big exhibitions. ConExpo has already been and gone. There's no Bauma next year. So we're a long way away from that big announcement. Everything about it feels off. And then maybe I'll get a phone call this afternoon. What are you talking about? You've pressed the wrong button. It's over. In which case, I can only apologise. But if anybody else can find the telehandlers on the Cat website, the Finning website, I'd be very interested, because I couldn't. If Cat has dropped out of the market, it will be because they've bought out the opposition. Again, that going back to our discussions about collaborations, that is always the danger. Well, I say danger. Maybe that's exactly what the smaller manufacturers and specialist developers are hoping for. You do a bit of a collaboration with a Caterpillar, a Volvo, a Liebherr, a Komatsu, Hitachi, and then after about 6 months, they say, "Yeah, actually, we're going to just buy you out." And the founders go away with a couple of $1 million in their back pocket, and it just absorbed into. I'm not entirely sure if that's necessarily the way forward, technologically speaking. To my mind, the reason that some of the technology companies have developed what they have is because they are single-minded. They are singularly focused. Never mind wheel loaders, never mind excavators, dozers, graders. No, we are developing technology. We're developing software and systems. Yes, it will bolt onto all of those things and make them more efficient and safer and cleaner and everything else. But we are focused on that. The concern is the moment you absorb that into a bigger, do you get the same freedom to innovate? Do you get the same freedom to go off in strange new directions? It's an interesting one. Funnily enough, that was one of the conversations I had up at Bobcat. And I would say that Bobcat, I'm quite fortunate to be doing these back to back. Bobcat and Volvo. I was at Bobcat this week. I'm at Volvo next week. They are both very, very good at empowering their workforce to think big, to think outside the envelope. That's why I think you've got, I mean, things like those mini autonomous trucks that Volvo have developed, the game control from Bobcat, the OLED screen from Bobcat. I think that's unlikely to happen if you are a very corporate, rigid structure. And Caterpillar is a very, very corporate, very rigid structure. I wonder if that's why this is the way it is. I wonder. Yeah, Cat did collaborate with JLG in class before manufacturing their own machines. Are they about to partner again with someone? Well, certainly their French dealer is. I don't know whether that's going to maybe. Listen, this is a weird aside. McDonald's. It's got absolutely nothing to do with what we're talking about here, but McDonald's. So McDonald's came up with the hamburger and the cheeseburger and the quarter pounder and the Big Mac. But they didn't come up with the chicken McNugget. No. One of their outlets did. If memory serves me correctly, it was somewhere in California. I'm doing this completely off the top of my head, but somewhere that apparently the boss there was getting sick and tired of people saying, "Oh, do you not? This is back in the 80s, I would guess. Do you not have any chicken options? I don't like red meat. Do you not have a chicken option?" And he took himself away and developed what was at the time unique to one store, the chicken McNugget. And McDonald's went, "Oh, that's a bloody good idea." And I agree with them. That is my preferred choice. And so they did precisely that. So going back to Chris Ford's point here, is this going to be a case of Bergerac and Faresin getting their heads together, Caterpillar sitting on the bylines going, yes, we see what's going on here. That's working remarkably well. We'll take that and apply that elsewhere. Will the Faresin telehandler be the chicken McNugget? There's a thing happening. And 1970 Parklands has just joined us and said, "Good morning, everyone." Good morning to you as well. There's a thing happening in the online world. Jim will know all about this because he's a big old YouTuber these days. But there is a separate industry now that is called clipping. Okay, and people watch shows like this and they clip little bits of it. So they'll take me saying Faresin is the chicken McNugget of the telescopic handler market. They'll clip that and they'll put it on YouTube and on TikTok and on Instagram. I live in fear of that. I live in fear of turning on TikTok or Instagram, seeing me saying, out of context, Faresin Industries is the chicken McNugget of telehandlers. Because it makes me sound like a lunatic. But you get my point, right? Dan says, "I wonder, if JCB peaked X Series equipment and will do an updated series? What about Larini collab with someone?" Well, that one would make perfect sense, wouldn't it? That one would make perfect sense. I asked the question. I mean, bear in mind, the 520X from JCB is already their biggest ever excavator. Do they need to go to 70 tons? Does going above 50 odd tons really work with the JCB model? I think if you're building excavators in the 14, 15, 20 ton range, you're going to be making thousands of them. Tens of thousands of them potentially. If you're building machines in the 30, 40, 50 tons, you're going to be building hundreds, high hundreds, but hundreds and hundreds of machines. If you're building 70, 80, 90 ton machines, you might only be producing dozens, which to my mind doesn't really fit the JCB model. But so saying that, at no point did I expect them to go to 50 tons. So what do I know? I'm just a bloke with a keyboard at the end of the day. Gary Muir said, I don't think Caterpillar will have to buy another smaller brand out. They're a massive global brand with some really amazing, clever designers and people who could produce a great product. That they could, and I'm sure at some point they will. But think about this from a fashion perspective. When I first started doing this job, if you were an owner-operator, you generally had a backhoe loader, mainly because mini excavators hadn't really caught on. They were still a bit of a novelty. So the arrival of the mini excavator kind of took us by surprise, and there was a shift in the market. If there was a shift in the market, now be that in terms of fuel or a new category of equipment, maybe, if we all suddenly decided actually the way forward is 10-ton wheeled excavators, Caterpillar, Liebherr, Komatsu, Hitachi, Lugong, all of these companies could spend the next 2, 3, 5 years in R&D, spending oodles of money, millions and millions of pounds or dollars, or they could go to somewhere in Germany or France where there is already a manufacturer making 10-ton wheeled excavators, just bypass the whole thing, we'll have that. We'll put our own engines in it. We'll add all the technology that we have ourselves, but we're going to take that basic model, which is already successful, already proven, and we'll badge it as our own. It is potentially a shortcut to success. And Caterpillar have done it before. Caterpillar have swallowed up lots and lots of companies over the years. Great minds think alike. Jim Turner says Cat have bought out loads of smaller firms. It's good business. Yes, it can be. It can be. I mean, looking at it from my part of the industry, when Caterpillar first dipped its toe into demolition, and more specifically the demolition attachments market, they were years, if not decades behind. Absolute decades behind. They were really, really playing catch up. And then they bought Veracted over in the Netherlands, and they went from lagging behind to leading. And you look at it today, Caterpillar attachments are some of the very, very best in the market. And they did that with one purchase, a very strategic and very sensible purchase, but they did that with one purchase. Can of Worms springs to mind. I'd be interested to see how it finishes. Yeah. It's, as I say, it's a weird one. It is a weird one. Maybe JCB has seen all these manufacturers have 60-ton plus saturated market. Yeah, and they're not big sales. When you think about it from if you're playing the averages. If you're making a 14-ton excavator, there's literally, as we speak, there's probably 10,000, maybe even more, 10,000 construction sites in the UK that could, not necessarily would, but could be a home for that excavator. If you're making a 70-tonner, maybe there's 100, 200, 400 demolition sites and maybe 200 quarries where you could sell that. It's not much to go at, is it? And as you say, it is saturated. If you go into 50, 60 tons, you're then up against the Caterpillars, the Liebherrs. You're playing with the proper big boys at that point. I do wonder. Gary Muirhead says, I don't think Marco Lorini would tie himself into a collaboration with any manufacturers. He likes working loads of different brands. It's like putting all your eggs in one basket. It is. Although, again, bearing in mind all that he's done with the Setanta, if Liebherr came to him and said, here's a big bag of readies, we'd like to work with you under license, to take that Setanta system and incorporate that into our demolition range of Liebherr machines. Not saying that they take out the pipe layers and all the other weird and wonderful stuff that Marco Lorini does, and not impinging upon, his own personal legacy, but that of his family, because it is a family business. But if they could collaborate I mean, I think what Larini do is remarkable. But when you think about it on a global scale, imagine what they could do if they were under the umbrella of a Liebherr or a Volvo or a Komatsu. Jim Turner says, if you can't beat them, buy them. Yeah. I mean, that as I say, that used to be very much the Caterpillar way, and very, very successfully. If you ever get a moment to sit down and read the history of Caterpillar, we'll buy that and buy that and buy that and we'll buy that, and even though many of the brand names ultimately disappeared, that took them into brand new market areas where they weren't represented before, and they arrived fully formed. It wasn't a case of we've decided to make our own face shuffle. We've never done one before, but we'll have a go. They buy that technology in, so they hit the ground running. So as I say, rather than spending years in R&D and then years in improving the capability of that machine, we'll take that and we'll make it yellow, cat yellow, and the market will accept it, and it's worked fabulously well over the years. So yeah, interesting times. Very quickly, no show with me Monday or Tuesday. My apologies for the nose. I'm going to have a sneezing fit any moment now. I'm going to sit down tomorrow to try to get this Jamie Tavui thing knocked into shape. If I do, that will be ready for you to watch on Monday. As I say, I won't be here to man the chat, but you seem to manage perfectly well without me while Chris Monks was talking about the vagaries of training. Thank you for all the feedback on that, by the way. Seems to have gone down very well, which I'm very pleased about. I think this one will hit a similar spot. It's a great conversation. Jamie's a smashing fella, and I apologise to him unreservedly for taking so long to get the video turned around. It's just it's been a bit like that, and then obviously with what's going on with my wife and her recent bereavement, I've just been completely diverted. I mean, I very, very closely considered not going to Bobcat. Glad I did, because I wouldn't have served much purpose here. But yeah, it's been a bit crazy recently. Dan saying, have a fantastic weekend, guys. Yeah, you too. Gary says, if that is the case, why aren't they selling and advertising what they've still got? Don't know. It's weird. It's weird. But I'm sure it will all come out in the wash. We'll be keeping a close watch on it. And if anybody does happen upon cat telescopic handlers, new ones, not used ones, but new ones, and actually find them online, I'd love to hear about it. Not only do you get the technology, the manufacturing customers, you also get the supply chain too. Then eventually rebadge. Yeah, as I say, Caterpillar, absolute past masters at it. We shall see. Maybe there's a Caterpillar person right now running a rule over Faresin, thinking, yeah, I think we'll have that. The Frenchies have already had a very, very good look, and they've decided they're going to go with it. Maybe we'll have it as well. Hillhead for cat launch? Hey, who knows? I mean, if I was launching a telehandler or a range of telehandlers, not sure I'd be doing it at Hillhead. Not exactly a quarry machine. And the last couple of outings at Hillhead have been, the finning stand has been almost exclusively Cytec. It's all technology and not a great deal of plant, which I think has undermined the demonstration area somewhat. The cat demonstration was always the bit that kicked it off and made it interesting and exciting. Without that, the faces felt a bit, recently. Hopefully they've got that sorted out, but we shall see. Not long to wait now, less than a month. So if you're going to Hillhead, please keep an eye out for me. I should be wandering around with the look of a lost person on my face, because that's how I spend most of my time. I'm going to be back on Wednesday. Until then, everybody, look after yourselves. I shall do my best to send you a postcard from Eskilstuna. Till then, everybody, have a good one.